Okay, hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture we're going to look at weighted routing policy. So what is weighted routing? Well, let's take our user and they're sending a DNS request to route 53, and then what we can do is we can specify that 20% of that request goes to, let's say, US East 1, and 80% of that request goes to US West 1. So we can actually do a specific weighting. This could be because let's say we're running a shop in LA. So maybe LA Customs, like we customize cars or something like that. West Coast Customs, that's the one I'm looking for. We would then assume that basically 80 to 90% of our consumers are coming from the Californian coastline. So we would want the 80% of our users to hit US West 1. But then we may also have a DR site in US East 1. It's quite a bit smaller, but we want to know that it is up and running and that it is functional and could be useful in the event of a disaster. So we send 20% of our traffic to US East 1 just to keep it ticking over. So that's all that weighted routing is. So in this example, Route 53 will send 20% of the traffic to US East 1 and 80% of the traffic to US West 1. So let's go ahead and have a look at how we can set it up in the AWS console. Okay, so here I am in the AWS console. If I click on Route 53 and click on my hosted zones, I'll be able to see my Hello Route 53 Gurus. I still have this A record in here, something I will quickly just show you. So this is my simple routing policy. If I added, let's say, 11 or 12.2.4.5, so I'm just making one up, and I go ahead and hit create, you'll see that we won't be able to create it because it already exists. So with simple routing, you can only have one line in here. So let's go ahead and delete that record set and go ahead and confirm. And we're going to create a new record set and we're going to leave it as blank. And the value, I'm going to grab my first IP address. So it was this one here. And I'm going to paste that in here. Just going to remove out the HTTP. So we'll just have it as 52.207.227.107. I'm going to make that a 1 minute TTL. And I'm going to change the routing policy to weighted. So in here we do our weight. So let's say I'm going to give this a weight of 25%. And in here you just actually enter in whole numbers. It's going to add them up and then it's going to, so if this is 25 and the next one's 25 and the next one's 25 and the next one's 25, it'll add them all up to be equal to 100, and then it will say 25 out of 100 is 25%. So that's how it works. If you were to do 25 in here and then 1,000 in the other one, then this would only be 25 out of 1,025. So hopefully that makes sense. And here we've got our set ID. So I think this ending in 107 was Web Server 1 Northern Virginia. So let's call it that, Web Server 1 NV for short. I'm not going to associate it with a health check. We use health checks when we go on to do failover. So let's just leave everything else as default. Go ahead and create. That has now created a new line in here. We can see it is an A record, but I can go on and create more record sets. So let's go ahead and grab this IP address. So this is going to be Web Server 2 for Northern Virginia. So I'm going to go back over here, paste it in, just strip this out here and strip this out here. And then I'm going to change this to weighted. I'm going to give this a 25 weighting. And in here, I'm going to just change. In fact, if we scroll over, we can see the naming convention there. So I'm going to call it Web Server 2 Northern Virginia. I'm not going to associate it with a health check. I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And so I can keep doing that. I'll just do it for the other two quickly. So create record set. And again, I'll just grab the IP address. So this one is for Sydney. So ending in 41 is for Sydney. Paste that in here, strip this out. I don't think I changed the TTL on the other one, but it doesn't really matter. Weighted, I'm going to give this a weight of 5. And then again, using the same naming convention. So Web Server, and this one is Web Server 1, and this is in Sydney. And go ahead and hit create. And I can do exactly the same thing for my one in Sao Paulo. So if I just go over to weighted, 25, Web Server 1, Sao Paulo, and grab that IP address in there. And that's all I need to do. And just paste it in here and strip that out. So 18.228.7.125. and we go ahead and hit create. So that is it. I've created my 4 different record sets. Now again, testing this, your TTL, it really comes down to your TTL. So how long is it going to be cached? If you did 60 seconds for everything, you can hit refresh every sort of 1 minute 30, and you should get a mixture of different results. So you should get Virginia Web Server 1, Virginia Web Server 2, Sydney 1, and then Sao Paulo 1 as well. So that's all weighted routing policies are. They're really, really easy. It lets you split your traffic based on different weights assigned. So you could have 10% going to US East 1 and 90% go to EU West 1. So go to our user, hits Route 53, 20% and 80%, 20% going to US East 1 and 80% going to US West 1. So that is it for this lecture, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Thank you.